Well, we've challenged American history and economics 101, so now it's time to look at civics 101. This lesson suggests that what we think about our government is off base, and we need to adapt to the truth so we can understand what happens in the world rather than endlessly yelling back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. The previous lesson explained the truth about our monetary system, shown here, and briefly mentioned that we are governed day to day by these people. And all of this is dramatically different from what passes for conventional wisdom. I would suggest that's because the media portrays the wrong system. It projects this little pyramid in front, suggesting that the government's in charge and corporations are beneath it, and then all the people are at the bottom and have power over the government. But the real power structure here is hidden. And once every 4 years, when it comes time to try to be serious and participate in government, the media portrays the corporations as the enemy of the left, and it portrays government as the boogeyman of the right. And that if we just get the one right person in a distant White House, then all our problems will be solved. But of course it never works because these people aren't really in charge. You know, like this guy a while back who was quickly replaced by this guy on the left, then we swung back to the right, and then back to the left, and we wonder why nothing ever changes. At each shift, popular opinion thought we'd fix the system. Politicians talked about hope and change and got us all excited, but they don't really run things. Again, these people do. So, hope and change from the mouths of politicians is no match for the power of the bond market. And this is what George Carlin tried to point out to all of us before he passed away. Most people think he's just a comedian, but with these words, he proved he's a prophet. He warned people not to be distracted by the politicians because they're just put there to give you the idea that you have freedom. Instead, he said that we are all owned. And that may be hard to stomach, but the math of the bond market proves it, because the value you create in your work all day, every day, gets cycled up to the people who own the bonds and create no value. So Mr. Carlin is asserting here that this idea of freedom, that humans have dignity and should not be owned, as explained in the Declaration, has pretty much disappeared. Now, the secret sauce of maintaining the system is the little-known method of long-term capital control. What the ownership class has learned through the years is that if they get exposure to the public, their capital is at risk, and they might be the object of the public's anger. So in effect, they've learned to hide. In order to understand this, we can look at the pyramid from the top down, building it layer by layer from the bottom up, which gives us the perspective of peeling the layers of an onion to get to the core. On the outside of the onion, or the bottom of the pyramid, is the public. It's all of us, and most of us only get exposed to what the media shows us. And now the media projects these people, the professional operators. These are the people who get broadcast into our living rooms on the TV screen as if they're in charge. So we might see a corporate CEO in a $5,000 suit, or a president, or another politician, or a general, but they're not really in charge. Behind all those operators are a bunch of lawyers and financiers and strategic advisors and PR professionals who hold a lot of power as they work for the innermost layer, the owners. And now, anyone can buy a bond, so we think anyone could be an owner. But the real owners are the ones who have built up strategic ability to control and exert power over this system. These are people we never see on TV. And some might suggest this is conspiracy theory, but it's just the basic method of corporate governance. This is the way it works. Operators are paid for their expertise in running corporations, while the owner's expertise is controlling them. It's a basic aspect of capitalism. Anybody who's been close to the top layers of a corporation knows that people from the outside, like a senior lawyer, financier, or strategic advisor that might be 3,000 miles away in DC or New York, can call the CEO and tell him or her what to do. So the people in the corporation aren't really in charge, and these owners have learned to apply this control system to other aspects of life, like government. Now, these controllers are generally born into elite families, and they go to Yale or Dartmouth, Harvard, Princeton, or lesser-known Northeast colleges like Williams College for undergrad. And the financiers and lawyers who work for them aren't born into these families, but earn their way into Harvard Business School or Yale Law School in order to become part of this inner club. Of course, I'm not talking about all graduates of these institutions by any means. I'm just talking about a select few. And these schools don't really teach this system, but the select few learn about it informally through networking and gaining access to the right social group or society or club. The few people from these schools who happen to be in the key positions of the pyramid, whether it's the media, the corporate world, the government, the military, the powerful lawyers or financiers, they all happen to be in one New York-based club called the Council on Foreign Relations. And this group writes all the policy documents and white papers that become U.S. law. And again, all the people in key positions are in this group. So this is the corporate planning and governing body of the U.S. It operates just like a board of directors. And now, I'm not making a value statement here, but just trying to explain the way our system really works because I think you deserve it. But this guy might be making a value statement. The people on the inner layers of the onion, the upper layers of the pyramid, these are the people Martin Luther King referred to here as the protectors of the status quo. This system greatly benefits the inner layers and keeps most others in the dark, so it's in their interest to play along. In fact, the incentives can be so powerful that some of these people have no option but to play along. But this means we don't live in sort of a flat free market system. And Martin Luther King saw through the illusion of our supposed free market, and I hope you do as well now. I hope you see that we don't live in a free republic with a free market, but rather a financial empire controlled by people who control debt and therefore have ownership rights and leverage over the system. So which system are you cheering for? We're in a difficult position because if we're patriotic to the system portrayed on the national news, then we're supporting the system killing the very America that most of us think we're patriotic to. And here's a more important question. Which system are you working for? If you're working for a large corporation, a Wall Street bank, a federal agency, or unfortunately even some of my old brethren in the U.S. military, you're fueling the top layers of this empire system. And that may be fine, it may be what you want to do, but I just think it's important for us to understand the truth of what we're doing rather than falsely believing that we're serving a free republic. And Gandhi said, be the change you want to be in this world. So if you're working for a large empire organization, are you being the change you want to be? And remember, this empire is holding a massive hammer to the tune of about 50 to 100 trillion in total debt and unfunded liabilities. That's leverage. That's ownership control over the republic. As many people have warned throughout history, way too many to include on this slide, debt is one of the best ways to enslave a country. It can be a fatal disease of republics. And so I hope this lesson has explained how our debt situation has done exactly that and put us all under the control of those who have the leverage. This is not the governance or political system we're trained in, nor is it the system we see on the corporate TV networks, the loud cable channels, or the radio shows. None of it correctly understands our system, and therefore all of it leads us astray. I say, turn off the TV. We must start living in the real world because this system affects human life and the natural world in powerful ways we might not like. We'll cover that in the next lesson on the culture of empire.